if the governments don't immediately observe the advice of the voice. And the third thing I think is, and this will be a tragedy, I think not only will the gap, that is the disadvantages which relate particularly to the remote areas, not only will these not be cured, worse, they will be made worse. My reasoning for that is, I think many people will think that if this goes through, the problems of the gap will have been cured and they don't have to worry about it anymore. And the problems which relate to the remote areas will only get worse. That's my fear. What do you think of my feelings about what will happen if the voice is passed by the people?
I agree with every point you made, David. I think that firstly, this is a bureaucracy, and we know what bureaucracies do. Their natural tendency is that they grow, they become self-serving, and they will become more. It will become, no matter how constrained it is financially or administratively at the beginning, it will naturally grow and grow further and further away from the people it is really supposed to represent. And as you say, they'll be off on international conferences and there'll be seminars, and the cost will be enormous, and it will not achieve what it's intended to do, because it will be further and further away from the people that it's supposed to serve. That they talk about getting grassroots advice. Well, you don't get grassroots advice from a massive bureaucracy sitting in Canberra. No matter how the delegates, some of them may be elected, many of them will be appointed. So it's an undemocratic institution from the word go. And I totally agree with you that in terms of fixing the gap, this will be just a very expensive white elephant. Sorry, I think that sorry.
And this will give an additional voice to what are termed the Indigenous people, Aborigines and Torres Strait Islanders. It will give them an additional voice. We all have some sort of a voice to Parliament, but this will give them an additional and secured voice under the Constitution. And I think you make the point that if you're going to give a preferential privilege to some people, if you're going to give that those people should be very carefully defined. And you make the point in your book that there's a problem in relation to who will benefit from this, and that is there's a problem in relation to the definition of who is Indigenous. You make that point, don't you?
Yes, David, I'm pleased you brought that up. In fact, I seem to be about the only one that's making this point, but to me it seems incontrovertible that if the Constitution gives special privileges or preferences a certain group of people, it must be the Constitution that makes clear who those people are. It can't be left up to Parliament, or worse, the High Court. If we're talking about genuine disadvantage, as more and more people, as the white and Aboriginal population intermarry and intermingle more and more, the Aboriginal population can only grow, and this becomes more and more about entitlement and less about disadvantage. In my view, unless the referendum question defined who the Aboriginal people are, who can sit on this voice, who can vote for it, then that should be a deal breaker in my view. I just cannot understand how something could be left open-ended for something as significant as this change.